which brings me to my next point, where I think the season is headed. And I'll pull up my standings over here for the Eastern Conference on my other screen. I do think, with some doubts, that the Sabres are a playoff team. I'm not sure which team they'll replace. I think you could make a case for Montreal due to the injuries along their blue line. I think they have 2 defensemen that they started the year with still playing. I think you can make a good case for the Rangers, who have injuries of their own and have pretty much been awful lately. And the Carolina Hurricanes, who I never really thought were that good of a team and don't really seem strong in any aspect of the game, and yet they continue to win, so obviously they're good at something. If I were to pick a team for the Sabres to replace, my gut tells me it would be Carolina. Their -10 goal differential speaks volumes to me. I hate it when a team gets into the playoffs with a negative goal differential. I think that if you can't outscore your opponents, you're kind of a waste of space, which may bite me in the ass because the Sabres are right on that edge. So if I were to pick Buffalo leapfrogging somebody, it would be them. The Rangers, always a possibility, got a ton of games in hand against them. Montreal's 7 points up with only 1 extra game played. Could happen. I probably won't, just due to the few games left and the difference in point totals. But we're lucky we're not in the Western Conference, because if we were in the Western Conference, we would be 5 points out of a playoff spot instead of 1 point out of a playoff spot, and we would be in 12th instead of 9th. And what is there to say about the Western Conference? It is a mess. Chicago has won 7 straight games. They're only 3 points into the playoffs in 4th. From Chicago at 78 points down to Minnesota at 74 points. That's 4th to 11th place right there. That's 4 points separating 8 teams. And a few weeks ago, I took a look at the Western Conference for Vulgar Stats, and I came to the conclusion that I said that Vancouver, Detroit, and San Jose, and I think Phoenix as well, were probably locks. And Phoenix has been plummeting lately. And I believe the teams that I thought would end up making the playoffs were Nashville, who is currently in 10th, and then Los Angeles, Calgary, and Chicago, who are all in the playoffs in 6th, 5th, and 4th, respectively. So far, I'm being proven right, but with that few points separating the teams, anything could happen. For example, if Minnesota wins 1 game, they go from 11th to a tie for 6th with Los Angeles and Phoenix, with a tiebreaker disadvantage because of the number of games they played. So, who really knows there? Personally, based on talent, and again, assuming Vancouver, Detroit, and San Jose are locks to make the playoffs, I think Los Angeles, I don't know why Los Angeles isn't challenging more for their division. That team looks good top to bottom. They have a +21 goal differential. Very few overtime losses, so and I'm not sure what that really says about them, if they're just winning those close games or if they're losing in regulation too often. But I would say that they're almost definitely going to make the playoffs. I think Phoenix is too good to miss out on the playoffs. I think Calgary's got a real easy schedule from here on out, and I believe they play a lot of games at home, so I would imagine they would make the playoffs, which leaves me for one final spot. Let me make sure I did that right. Vancouver, Detroit, San Jose. I said Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Calgary. 2 more spots. Chicago's so far up now that I would think they're in a pretty good position, and they've got Taves and Sharp and Hossa and at least decent goaltending. So I would imagine they'd probably make the playoffs. And after that, I don't know. I want to say Nashville. I think with Pekka Rinne in that, you've got a chance every night. But at the same time, I think they're pretty decimated at center. I think Gauche is hurt. I think his name is escaping me right now, but I think one of their other top centers is also hurt. So they're in dire straits right now. If they can get healthy for the playoffs, I think they'll win a series, even if they're playing Vancouver. I think with Pekka Rinne and the way that team plays, they could definitely spring an upset. The goaltending, the defense, and the penalty killing is top notch, and if they can just get a timely goal or two, they could sneak through to the second round. But in summation, Western Conference, clusterfuck. Should be fun to watch, though. Next up, opinions on the Enroth situation. Jonas Enroth has been recalled for this weekend. Everyone's saying that he's going to get the start tomorrow in Minnesota, and I would imagine that's true. A lot of people think he should be with the Sabres permanently, taking the backup role for Patrick Lalime, and after thinking about it, I disagree. Especially with a young goaltender like Enroth, him sitting on the bench is not beneficial in any way. It doesn't help the Sabres because he's not going to play more than, once every 20 games. It doesn't help Enroth because he's not getting any time to develop. He's not getting used to playing against talented players. And guys in the AHL are still talented players. And I think the only reason you need a guy on the bench is to fill in for Miller if he gets hurt in a game or if he gets pulled in a game. And if Miller's hurt or getting pulled, or probably fucked anyways, so why not throw Patrick Lalime in there? And at least for he sees half a game, that's not going to hurt the Sabres. And you can always recall Enroth after that particular game if you need to. And doing that doesn't run at the expense of getting him playing time. So I think I agree with the way the Sabres are handling things, with the exception that I wish Enroth maybe played a little more. Maybe once every... I'm trying to do the math in my head. Maybe twice in 10 games. Get Miller 60 to 65, Enroth 15 to 20. But the Sabres, with the position they're in, can't afford to not have Miller in net every night. So that's kind of a moot point.